Hello and welcome to Your County. I'm Lynne Turner Fitzgerald, and I'm here today to introduce you to the new General Manager of MetraPark, Stoney Field. Welcome to Montana, and welcome to MetraPark.
Lynn, thank you very much. I truly appreciate it.
So you are coming from Colorado, I understand. Is
Yes.
that your home state?
Yes, I was born and raised in the same town that I'm coming from now.
Oh, yeah?
When I graduated high school, like every young person, decided we had to get out of town and go see what the world was like. And then I came back and helped hospice my mom for her last few years, and that's when I finished out at my previous job actually there, and moved here from Montrose.
So back in Montrose, you had a similar job to, were you an arena manager?
Yeah, so I was we call it a director here. It's the general manager, but at that point it was the Fairgrounds and Event Center director.
Okay.
We had just actually built a brand new indoor arena and event center in 2018. So that was the new addition to our fairgrounds, and so at that point was just a new facility for us to try and manage and utilize for a number of different events.
Are there similarities to MetraPark?
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, we were a much smaller community and a much smaller venue, but a lot of the things that we try and accomplish as far as equine events, the difference comparison would be the Nile here, the rodeos, the PBRs, those type of things were our bread and butter. We did do a handful of concerts and the monster trucks, those type of events, fight nights, the typical entertainment venue. So, but we were not a facility that could compete with the likes of Metra as far as some of the names for concerts and those bigger ones.
Right. Well, I know, Metra has this magical transforming capability from a dirt rodeo floor to a different kind of floor for a different event, and that takes a lot of coordination, I would think.
Absolutely. In fact, we start with concrete at Metra, which was the complete opposite of the facility I was at. We had a permanent dirt floor, and we brought in a plastic floor to go on top of it, where here at Metra, we start with a concrete floor and we bring the dirt in. Most recently at the fair, we brought dirt in for the 3 nights of rodeo, and it's a tremendous undertaking. The amount of equipment, the team that we have, it's so nice to come in here as the newbie and see that the techniques are already literally as efficient as they possibly can get to move tons and tons, literal tons of dirt in. I mean, what you don't see when you're in the crowd is that there's close to 2.5 feet of dirt on the ground on top of that concrete. Yeah, for the safety of not only the competitors but the animals as well.
Oh, sure. Okay. And I'm trying to remember, were there ice events there one time?
So from some of the folks, in fact, there's team members, believe it or not, out there at Metra who they're all in the 20s. I mean, there's a handful of folks that are 10 or 15 years and down to about 5 or 6, but there's a number of folks that have been there well over 20 and one in near 40 years, I believe, and that's not counting Mr. Dutcher, who was my predecessor, as the general manager. But yes, my understanding was that they used to actually have a hockey team that played there, and so we utilized some of the devices as far as the actual wall that separates the crowd from what's going on, and we utilize that to hold some of the dirt in. But the ice making capabilities, my understanding is a lot of that went aside when the tornado took the roof off. So there was a few of the things that and so I'm learning my history lessons about MetraPark and Billings as well.
Yeah, that was quite a day. Father's Day.
Okay.
It was on Father's Day, and what a miracle, no one was injured. No one was killed.
Truly, I've seen pictures. They sort of have them up around in the office space to remind us of what it has been like before. Well,
so when you first came, what was your impression of the entire operation, the grounds, the buildings, everything?
Oh, I mean, I think I've described it as drinking from a water hose, and I know that's such a cliche way to put it, but it was a lot to take in from the standpoint that the facilities work differently. They don't work differently in the overall aspect, but in each building has its differences. And it was truly humbling, Lynn, to be honest with you, to come from a situation where I pretty much knew where every bolt and screw was in the building to all of a sudden trying to figure out where's the parking spot, literally,
Right,
as
yeah.
opposed to which building is that. So I appreciate my team being super patient with me, walking me through that. Came right into fair. I literally
That's
started
right.
my first day on the Monday, and Friday was fair. And I think the truth for me, everyone says, oh, we probably shouldn't have done that, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. I think the reality comes from you're able to see what your team is capable of
Sure.
in the heat of the moment, and that way you're able to gauge what's our capacity as we move forward when we see them at their best and under the gun.
Right.
Then you know what we're capable of when we look forward to other events, as opposed to coming in and not really understanding what everybody's true capacities are.
Nice. You're able to observe that.
Absolutely.
Do you have any hair on fire moments, or?
Oh, I think that the fair in general and even the event business is hair on fire.
Like every day?
Every day.
Okay.
I've yet to be on either side. And before the venue management, I was on the other side of the table is how I describe it. I brought events, 2 different facilities all over the country. In fact, did events in China. So, I mean, it's the ability to look at those things and say, okay, where's the things that we can kind of make sure we're going to be in a great place, but be ready to adapt to anything that comes. And
Right.
and that's as I told you off camera, I think that's one of the amazing things about our team here is that it's a different type of personality that it takes to be on a team at a venue where almost anything can happen. You're at the places where most everybody else comes for entertainment, and you're a part of making sure that it's a good show for everybody.
You're working it, and they're enjoying it.
Yep.
And that's your job, make sure they enjoy it.
Yep.
Right? So are there long-term plans for adaptation or changing at the fairgrounds, MetraPark? Are we growing it?
You know, I think that there's a handful of things that have just barely been floated to me. I'm truly getting used to what the MetraPark Advisory Board, what their expectations are, what our county commissioners' expectations are, and truly what the community's expectations are. I know that there's a few things when I come in that are really just trying to understand what our capacities are. Again, what's the team capacities? I don't feel that there's any broad swath that I'm going to come in and make a change immediately.
Sure.
I would like to really find out what are the desires of the groups trying to expand. Are there certain areas that we need to focus on more so than others? Right now, I just want to show my team that I'm a good leader and that we're going to go forward as a team, as a consensus type of situation, as opposed to I've never had a management style that is the Genghis Khan, we're going to do it my way or that's the end of it style. It just has never worked.
Well, I was curious to know how it really does work. So who is responsible for picking the entertainment that shows up at MetraPark? Are you hit with promoters? Do you go looking for things? How does that work?
So I think it's truly a huge mix of all of those type of things. We have folks that potentially are coming through Billings on their way somewhere else and feel like, hey, can we fill a date? We have people who are specifically targeting Billings to be here for their event. We have events that have been there historically for years on end, if not decades on end. And so we're trying to fit around all of those portions of the calendar. But in reality, our marketing and sales group, they're looking at dates to fill. The fortunate thing for our community and for MetraPark is that calendar is pretty full already.
It is.
So when we go in to fill dates, we're limited, and that goes as well as for folks who are trying to bring their events here. They have to adapt and see where we can make them fit and for the appetite of what our community is looking for, as well as if it's something that potentially isn't driven by spectator traffic and it may be competition driven. And so if our facilities can accommodate that, I mean, you can see in the background we've got 3 events going on this weekend. We have a home improvement, we have a gun show, and we have a fight night, all on the same weekend in the same facility.
Wow.
Which truly folks have plenty to see. They can come down to Metra for 3 straight days and have something different each of those days. So that's why it's super inspiring to me to be a part of a facility in a community that has all of those options for everybody.
Well, it certainly is an economic driver for the region. I mean, the hotels, the meals, all the tourist dollars that are spent, spectator dollars that are spent. It's been a real good fit, I think, for Yellowstone County and the whole area.
Oh, I have to agree. I know that even from where I was at in Colorado, I know people that had been coming to the Nile for a number of years to compete. So they gave me an idea of what it looked like from their standpoint of coming to the community. They've told me over and over, you're going to love Billings. It's just a really great place. My wife and I have gotten here. We've been here about 3 or 4 weeks, and truly it has been very... Gosh, I don't even know the best word, because everyone has been so accommodating and so friendly and cheerful, and we've felt that the hospitality of just the community is something that we haven't felt for quite a few years in the community that we were at. So it's refreshing, if nothing else.
Oh, that's very good. Okay, so I have to ask, and first of all, full disclosure, the first time I called MetraPark and I wanted to talk to you to arrange this, I asked for Dusty Field.
Oh.
And your name is Stoney Field. And I was embarrassed, but now you know.
Okay.
Okay. But how did you get your name?
So I was born to elderly parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a great reference of it because my dad was 52 and my mom was 46. So we weren't really in the same times. And so I believe it was early 60s, there was a television show called Stony Burke, which had Jack Lord, and his fame was the original Hawaii Five-0.
Sure.
And so my father came home and decided that instead of the normal names, he was going to go with Stoney, and so it's been Stoney my whole life. And
have you ever seen an episode of Stony Burke?
I haven't.
You have not?
I know that they're available. I've read some of the scripts and stuff, because obviously with the internet nowadays, it's a lot easier to find out some of those histories. Sure. I would say the synopsis would basically be the old storyline of the cowboy comes in for the rodeo and helps out the mistress in distress who's losing her ranch to the bank, and then he wins the rodeo and moves on to his next rodeo for the next episode. So I think it's a
happy ending every time.
Yeah, it's sort of
That's
cliche
awesome.
for the hero to come in and save the day. And not sure if any of that is of the same effect, but proud to carry the name.
Well, absolutely. So let me ask you about some of the things that you promoted back in your previous life. Mostly agriculture? Was it concerts, variety?
So we felt originally we were going to try at the new location with the brand new facility that we wanted to try and be as broad and diverse as possible, and realized truthfully that our marketplace, we weren't necessarily competitive. There was a larger community, Grand Junction, which was close to us.
Oh,
They had Country Jam. They had a large amphitheater. We had Telluride, basically the same direction or the same distance, but on the opposite end of us, and they had blues festivals and bluegrass festivals and ski areas. So to compete from a price point, our community really just couldn't withstand some of those dollars to bring in the acts that it would take to truly compete with them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And our county commissioners weren't very, very fond of, actually, I mean, it was a gamble per se to take the taxpayers' dollars and say, should we spend this much money to bring this act in hopes that we can sell the tickets. Our facility was not necessarily built for the acoustics of concerts.
Okay.
What we were really built for was the equine basis. So we brought in we brought in a number of different diverse events, from hunter jumpers to cutting horses to barrel races, rodeos, all the horse shows that you can think of, from quarter horses to gypsy horses. So we became known with our facility and our footing, that's the dirt basically, nationwide. And so we didn't take very long to have some very elite competitions. A gentleman from around here named Ty Yost brought us the national team roping, of which we started with one, and before I left there, they were doing their fourth one for this year. He actually considers that his Colorado home for his events. So we've been able to, or that facility was able to really recruit in the highest level of those type of events. And for a small community, you'd alluded earlier on the community, the direct impact dollars, and that's really where those dollars came into effect. When you have folks from Florida and Texas and Oklahoma and all over coming to your community and having to be there for 4 or 5 days of competition, they're leaving their dollars in your community as opposed to loading them up in a satchel and leaving town. So the community itself started to understand what that facility was actually bringing to the community from those dollars, and we saw different businesses starting up and expansions of current businesses. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
well, was it a hard sell to get the community on board to build it?
I came in at the tail end of all of those discussions. I think that, like any large capital project in a community, especially one that's deep rooted in some generational history, as far as we were an agricultural community, so to think of, okay, we're gonna spend X amount of dollars to bring this in, is it gonna work? There was some hesitancy. I think that when you come from the Western world, it's, well, that's how we've always done it, and a lot of times we have to just see what the new methodologies are. And so I believe that there was resistance. I wasn't necessarily a part of it. I got a lot of that of, is this place going to pay for itself? And the reality is, from an anecdotally, I can express that, I mean, Murdoch's is a Montana business, and we had a Murdoch's there in Montrose. They did $100,000 single day Saturday during one of our barrel races, and those are undeniable, anecdotally, that there is a difference in the community. But once you started to see some of the businesses expand and other businesses coming to town, you could see that those impact dollars were truly sound.
Well, and I get the feeling too, because you were mentioning people coming from all across the country for some of these equine events. There's a real deep passion for those people, and they want to be at the right events, and it's ongoing. It's not only, it's about their horse and the horse's ability, but it's also about their ability, their athletic ability, and it's a real draw.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that when you look at actually combining the venue itself with what it is that the folks who are coming there are trying to achieve, aesthetically, it was a pretty building, but what we were doing is we were providing the grounds, the actual logistics of putting on their event at the highest level, to where it was not something that they were used to. They knew that it wasn't at Las Vegas, or it wasn't at Houston, or some of these really big places, yet the service, the equipment, those things were at the same level. They just were able to come to at that time. And Montrose is visually very pretty. It's got a lot of high mountains around us, and so it was the perfect place for those people to come away from their hot weather and compete and win some prize money and put themselves in the standings. I mean, we had cutting horse groups there that 7 of the top 10 in the world were actually competing during our events.
Awesome. Well, I'm wondering if the hospitality industry in Montrose was big enough to sort of accommodate these new, all right, that answers my question.
No, and that's the slow roll of a situation. Obviously, Billings has been forward-thinking enough from the tourist industry to know that they need to accommodate more people coming into town. Right. Unfortunately, the building success when I was there, we exceeded any numbers that anyone expected. So there was no way at that time to get any of that hospitality industry in. They were in catch-up mode from the very beginning. excuse me, they had one hotel that has more recently come in, and they brought it in a modular situation. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but instead of building from the ground up, they came in modules of 5 and 6 rooms at a time, much like a modular house, and just placed them, and had an entire hotel standing in about 3 days.
What?
Because the need was so massed when it was going on. I'm not sure that that's going to be sustainable for every hotel that comes in, but that particular hotel chain was capable financially of doing it in that way, to where they're cutting that lead time by a year plus, as opposed to just cutting it by months or weeks. They knew that they would be able to fill instantaneously, much like what I feel Billings is the shoulder months. None of the hotels or restaurants ever have to advertise, because the business is already coming to the community. So they felt the same way, that they wanted to get themselves ready during the shoulder months, so that once the season hit, that they would be capable of actually renting the rooms.
Well, so what do you anticipate will be the biggest challenge for you moving forward?
Well, I think that that with everything, a little bit of change is difficult. I think that stepping into a role where everyone's sort of used to the way that it's always been done. I think that there's some expectations that folks are going to reach out, and I've had some folks reach out like, you're not going to change this, or you're not going to change. And so everybody has an agenda. They want to go ahead and do that for themselves. If it works right for Yellowstone County and for the taxpayers, then I'm on board with it as well. If it feels like that we're inefficient, or that we have a better way to create some revenue generation, then I'm going to take what's best for the facility, best for my team, and best for the community, as my decision makers, as opposed to something emotional.
Well, and I'm sure you know that prior to you being hired, there was talk of privatization, of having private companies, and I didn't ever dig too deep into that. I didn't know what the benefit was. I didn't know what the drawback was, but that's gone for now, anyway.
Oh, I would. I'll put it this way.
Okay.
And maybe right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm going to do my very best so that the question of privatization never comes again.
Doesn't come up.
Because myself and my team are doing a job at a level that there should never be a question of if we can get a larger group to come in and help us do better.
Right. Well, and as you said, your group is so key, your team is so key, because these are not 8-to-5 jobs.
Not at all.
No.
I alluded to you earlier that we were having some issues at my previous job just trying to fill some spots, because it is the very first thing I would say in an interview is, please understand, this is not 8 to 5. You will be working nights, you'll be working weekends, and a lot of times you'll be working a holiday or two. If that's not for you, then we need not waste any more time in the interview. And that's one of the things that I think Billings and this community really needs to understand, is the staff that works out there at Metra have been here for a long time. Their commitments are in the years. We're not having turnover of every 6 months, new people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of staff that's been there.
That's remarkable.
10 years plus in a very difficult industry, in a very difficult situation over the last 36 months, and they're sticking to it. So what I want to do is be able to come in and give them a level of consistency and understanding that I've got their back, and we're all headed in the right direction. And have a tremendous facility that people should be truly proud to come and have their event at.
Okay. Well, we have to wrap it up, but I do appreciate you coming and visiting with us, Stoney, and I'm sure this won't be our last visit together.
Miss Lynne, I appreciate your honesty and working with me on my time frame as well to be able to be here.
Absolutely, and good luck.
Truly look forward to being a part of this community for a long time.
Wonderful. And I want to thank you for joining us on Your County. We'll catch you next time.